Welcome to Cat and Jess Talk the Best, where we're going to be talking about IMDb's top 250 movies from April 12th, 2018. My name is Kat.
And I'm Jess.
And today we are doing our second ever Friday the 13th special. We did this in, December?
December,
We did the first part, and we thought it was super fun. And just a good way to celebrate Friday the 13th. And so here we are. Back a second time for part 2.
Part 2.
Yep.
It's like there's more to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of Friday the 13th movies. So, like I said, we were talking about Friday the 13th part 2. And this is a horror, mystery, thriller film. Which I wouldn't even call it the second two. I would literally just call it horror and then slasher.
Yeah, that's about it.
But slasher is just a subgenre of horror. It's not like its own genre. It's just a subgenre. But this is from 1981. Sorry. 1931. Oh my god. 1981. And this has a 6.1 on 54,916 votes. So, the spoiler-free synopsis. The second entry in the long-running horror series focuses on a group of teenage would-be counselors converging on Camp Crystal Lake for training under the tutelage of head counselor Paul. Inevitably, Paul relates the story of Jason Voorhees, a boy who drowned at the camp and whose mother murdered a group of counselors in revenge. No one takes the tale seriously until a very much alive Jason begins gruesomely eliminating people. I think it's funny, eliminating people. Not killing, just eliminating.
No, just eliminating. Because they're in his way.
Yep.
So, this is directed by Steve Miner. He actually directed, when we get to it, part 3 of Friday the 13th.
Yep.
Lake Placid, and, this is a fun one, Halloween H20, 20 years later.
Yeah. I like to call that one H2O.
H2O.
I love calling that one H2O. But I do like that one, though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of them, so...
Oh, man. Maybe we need to start a Halloween one. I might have to start picking a Halloween movie every Halloween.
You might have to, because
I love Halloween. It is my favorite slasher series.
I haven't gone around to all of them. I have not.
I love the Halloween movies. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a few of them that are kind of bad, but I just love to watch them.
See, that sounds like me with Nightmare.
Yeah.
On Elm Street. Like, there's some good ones, but then there's some bad ones.
I think I've only seen 3 of them. And the remake, so 4 of them.
It happens.
Yeah.
This stars Amy Steele, John Furey, and Kirsten Baker.
Yep. So, the ratings for this. On IMDb, 27% of users that rated this rated it at a 6. On Metacritic, it has a 26%. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 28%. On 43 critical reviews. So 2 of the fresh. Eric Goldman. Yes, it's a cheesy slasher film, but you know that going in. And this is a well done example of the genre. Yeah, I will say it's got a good a number of kills for a slasher film. So
yeah, I would say that.
And it's got some awesome looking ones too. Like there's some really good Jason kills in here. So
I can think of one in particular.
Okay, you'll have to tell me which one your favorite is.
Okay, well, never mind. There's like 2 of them.
I'll say when we get to them. So Kevin Carr, not as good as the original, but still pretty funny. It serves up more of the same and continued to be fresh enough before its many other sequels got too silly. Yeah, I can agree with that one. Some of the other sequels are pretty silly in this one, but this one at least still continues that, like, slasher feeling.
Like the original.
Yeah. Whereas the further we get into these sequels, like, the crazier they get. I feel like they start touching into, like, the Leprechaun series, like, silliness.
Oh, Lord. Not those. Those are bad.
Those movies are hilarious. I was watching the first one the other day, and I was laughing my butt off at that point where, you know, they're throwing the shoes, and he has to, like, run and pick them up and wipe them off and everything. I was laughing my butt off. Oh, I love the Leprechaun movies. They're so bad.
They're so bad.
But they're so funny. And I wasn't even drinking. I was just watching it. That shows you how much I love horror movies and slashers in general. So yeah, I do agree with both of those fresh ones. So, Too Rotten, John Corey. The plot is an excuse for joining together horrors. All of the sadomasochist kind, and the acting is rudimentary at best. It probably will make a fortune. You were laughing at that one earlier.
I did. I thought it was funny. Just the end parts, like, I'll probably make a fortune. Like, well, it's a slasher film, so.
Yeah. It's a slasher, and it came out in April. That's a good time for a slasher.
Yeah.
I'm good with a slasher any time of day, or any time of year, but that's just me. I went and saw a slasher for Christmas, so. But I will watch any slasher anytime. Gary Arnold. Director Steve Miner and writer Ron Kurz introduce more potential victims than they have time or invention to knock off. It's true, they don't have time to kill everybody.
No, because, like, half the group that was there never came back to the lake. And so I'm like, okay, don't worry about them because they're not there.
Yeah, they we don't need them anymore.
It's fine.
I will say that is one fallout of this movie, is they had too many people.
Not enough time.
Yeah. Alright, so the consensus. Friday the 13th Part 2 sets the template for the franchise to follow, with more teen victims, more gruesome set pieces, and fewer reasons to keep following along.
Okay.
I mean, it's true. Like, really, after this one, you're just like, if you keep watching the Friday the 13th movies, it's just because you enjoy silly slashers after this point. Like, this just shows you how far down the rabbit hole they're gonna go, because it only gets worse from here.
As like, and I'll say with Nightmare on Elm Street, if you keep watching all of them, you actually learn the backstory of Freddy Krueger. So,
yeah, you don't really learn much else in the Friday the 13th movies.
Now that makes me look forward to Part 3.
November. The only real upside of seeing the rest of them is you get some cool death scenes.
All right, we'll give it that.
But there's not really.
The next one's not till November.
Yeah.
So
you got some time to work up to it. All right. So the money. The budget for this was $1.25 million. Opening weekend, it made $6,429,784. Domestically, it made $21,722,776. And that's all for the money. So, pretty much like the guy said, it'll make a fortune. And while it's not the biggest fortune, it's more money than I have, so let's say it's a fortune.
I was like, even just with like the base budget of $1.25 million, you still made a lot more than your budget. So that's technically a profit.
Yeah. You made quite a bit more than what your budget was. So awards. This had 3 nominations, but, I mean, we only really talk about nominations if they're for Oscars, and this one was not, so we're not going to talk about them. So, initial thoughts. Go for it.
So I was like, okay, part 2. When are we going to get into this? I mean, because I will say the first one was like, I was like, all right, you know, like, there's so many deaths. Especially that last one, Mrs. Voorhees. Whew, that was a brutal one.
Yeah.
That one, I'm like, how are you going to top that much blood in this one? And I was reading things before I watched it, and it's like, this one's not as bloody. And I'm like, oh.
It's not as
I said
bloody,
that. I was like,
but...
oh. Okay. But then I watched it, and I'm like, okay, this reminds me of the original. And so I know what's going to happen. Pretty much. I know if there's going to be a jump scare or something like that. Overall, I thought it was an alright movie. Yeah, it's alright. I'll say it's a decent sequel.
Yeah.
Not the greatest, but it's a decent one. I'll give it that. It was interesting to see what they did with Jason. Like, special effect wise.
Yeah.
Practical effect wise.
Like makeup.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really say anything in the original about that.
Yeah.
And you see it in this one. You're like, oh, okay. Like, they went that way. All right, whatever. But yeah. Typical slasher film for me. It was all right. I like some of the deaths in here. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I'll say 2 of them when we get to them that I like the best.
Okay. So for me, I don't remember exactly the first time that I saw this, but I do know I've seen it before because I pretty much remembered most of it. And I remember, just like you said, I mean, it's a decent sequel. It's not the best sequel I've ever seen, but I did enjoy it. I did have fun with it, and it did carry on with the kind of same theme as the first one. Whereas, you know, the first one we had Mrs. Voorhees, and this one we had Jason, but still, we got some really good deaths in it, and so I had fun with that. And just like pretty much any other slasher, there's not much of a plot. So...
There really isn't.
The plot is how many people are gonna die. Pretty much. So... Yeah. I do love the simplicity of slashers, though. Because it's just like one of those, just turn your mind off, watch it kind of fun movies. So...
Yeah, that's how I felt with this one.
But yeah. So that's all I got for that one.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
That was your warning. If you haven't watched the film yet, then stop listening and come back after you've watched it. So hold on, let me pull up this synopsis here. I know we do start off with about somewhere between 5 to 7 minutes. I forgot to stop it to see exactly how much it was, but
It was like about 7 or so.
okay.
Because
But
I
it's-
looked too.
Okay, I was gonna look and then I forgot, and then I paused it and I was like, oh, it's at 9 minutes, so it's been probably a couple of minutes. So I wrote down like 5 to 7, but we get like about 7 minutes of flashbacks to the first movie. And I'm like, I feel like I just watched the first movie. I mean, we kind of did with,
It was in December.
yeah, so we technically, yeah, we just watched the first movie. So,
Technically.
but, what's her name? Alice. She was our final girl in the first one. And she's having these bad dreams about it, and she wakes up, and then she's, like, kind of walking around the house and everything. She gets a phone call, and it's her mom, so she's talking to her mom, saying, you know, oh, I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. Then we see this really bad sketch, and it's, our guess is Jason, is what she's sketching there, or her imagination of Jason, what she thinks that he would look like, because she's only seen the boy version that we got to see at the very end. So
That jump scare. That's honestly one of my favorites ever.
Yeah. It's all nice and sunny, and then he just jumps up out of the water.
And he just jumps out of it and just, like, pulls her down. Like,
Yeah.
I remember, I knew it was coming, and then it still scared me. And I was like, God damn it. Ugh,
Yeah.
every time.
And then, of course, she has to take a shower. Because I don't think there's... Off the top of my head, I can't really think of many slashers that don't include someone taking a shower.
Or a bath.
Yeah, like there's always some sort of shower or bath scene. But then the phone rings again and nobody's on there.
And she starts freaking out a little bit.
Yep, we hear noises outside, and then, of course, the cat jumps in, and we get our little jump scare right at the beginning.
I loved it. I was like, ha, cute kitty. I
It is a
wrote
very
cute
cute
kitty.
cat. Then she goes to the fridge, and she opens it up, and there's Miss Voorhees' head.
Yep.
And then she gets a knife to the side of the head.
It's an ice pick.
Oh, was it a nice pick?
It's an ice pick. I know, because she had an ice pick in her hand
Oh, okay.
that she was using to defend herself because she kept hearing noises.
Gotcha.
And she had put it down, and she gets stabbed with it in the head.
Dumb.
I loved it. It was like, boom, side of the head, ice pick.
I
Moves
always
on to the
feel like-
credits.
I always feel like people in horror movies are so stupid.
Thank you. I've
So
always
stupid.
thought that too.
But that is our first death. That is our very first ever Jason Voorhees kill.
Technically, yes.
Because the first movie was
It was all misses.
his mom. So, just to give you an estimate, between all of the movies, Jason has about anywhere from 146 to 151 kills.
That's a lot of kills.
Yeah. And I think last time we had talked about it,
Yeah, we did.
we said he had, what, like 11, 12 movies? And he didn't
Yeah.
even kill in his first one.
No, it was this one is when he started.
Yeah. So, first ever kill for Jason. That's pretty exciting.
And of course, it's the person who killed his mother. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
You know.
I think that's kind of even there. I can see why he wanted to do that one.
Yeah. Some revenge.
I feel like the rest are kind of excess at that point.
Well, they're in his territory. He's got to get them. So then we jump to this truck drive-in, and there's some kids. They get out. Well, they're more like teenagers, but yeah, kids. And they get out and they go to the little phone booth and everything. And I keep calling him Crazy Joe, but that's not his name.
It's Ralph.
Yeah, Crazy Ralph is the name, but I feel like Crazy Joe is more suitable.
He just looks like a Joe.
He does. And I don't remember if I called him Crazy Joe last time or not, but I'm going to call him Crazy Joe this time. It's the same guy. He, of course, comes up and is, like, banging on the phone booth and telling him, I told you to watch out, blah, 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 spouting his craziness and everything. And they're trying to get directions to somewhere. You know, you can only guess because we're watching Friday the 13th movie. It's Camp Crystal Lake. They're trying to get directions to.
Because that's the only place to go, I guess.
Yeah. But as they're on the phone, their truck gets towed, so they start chasing it. And they chase it around and everything. And one of their friends got his friend to tow the truck over to them, and so they're all laughing about it and everything. And then they make it out to the camp, and that's where they meet Paul. He is like the head counselor guy, and he's there training, and there's quite a few kids there, like quite a few teenagers.
It's like you don't get all their names either.
No. And, I mean, in this type of movie, it does not matter.
I was like, I noticed the ones that get names are usually the ones that get...
Yeah.
Just saying.
They're doing their new counselor training, and then one person shows up late. This is our final girl.
Her name's Ginny.
We do get another final girl in this movie. And she used to be Paul's girlfriend, but now she's just there to, like, be his assistant type thing at the camp.
Yeah.
And so Paul is kind of upset with her, but they get over it. And then they go back and he's like telling everybody, like kind of instructing them, you know, what's going to happen and how camp's going to run and everything. And then they kind of have like a little bonfire that night. At the little bonfire, he is telling them about Jason because they are at Camp Crystal Lake across the water from Camp Blood, like the infamous Camp Blood. Which, I mean, it really doesn't matter. Camp Blood, Camp Crystal Lake, Jason doesn't care.
He don't care. It's his area, so stay away.
Yeah, Crystal Lake is his area, so. But, or no, it's all technically Camp Crystal Lake, but one side is one camp and one side is another camp. And I think the camp that they are at is technically called something different.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know. It's all confusing, but it's all pretty much the same area.
I'm like, it's just a slasher film. Let's not focus too much.
Yeah. But so he's like telling them the story about like how Mrs. Voorhees went and killed all these people, and that's how it's known as Camp Blood and everything. And then they're saying about how Jason is alive and he wants revenge for his mom's death. And they're talking about Alice, who had survived the first massacre. And
it's like, but then she disappeared.
Yeah. So then everybody's all scared and everything, and some guy jumps out of the woods with a little monkey mask on to scare everybody. At least it looked like a monkey mask.
Yeah, kind of.
While this little story's going on, we get that point of view shot from the first one.
Of someone watching.
Yeah. And they're all out there hanging out, and one of the girls leaves, and the girl and the guy that we saw in the truck in the beginning, the girl is like, well, I want to go see Camp Crystal Lake. I want to go over there. I want to see it and everything. And he's like, I don't know. And so they're kind of all talking and everything. And then we also see Crazy Joe is outside watching him, being a creep. That's not his name. Crazy Ralph. I'm going to call him Crazy Joe. And so he's outside watching him, but he gets some barbed wire strangling going on.
Yeah. Gets killed.
Yeah. And
It's
then,
like, well, that takes out the two from the first movie.
Yeah. Those are our two remnants from the first movie gone and over with in the first, 20 minutes of this movie.
It's like done and done.
Well, first 30, because the first, 10 was flashbacks. So.
Yeah.
So the next morning, we keep getting the point of view shots again, throughout this one. It's not quite as much.
No.
As the first one, but we do get it. And then we see a little dog. This is Muffin. Muffin comes across someone walking around and got some big old boots and big pant legs. So it looks like possibly a man's legs. And, well, that's the end of Muffin, pretty much. Pretty sure.
We think.
Yeah. Because we don't really see Muffin again.
Until later.
Yeah. So everybody's out swimming and everything, and the one girl's still trying to go see Camp Crystal Lake. She's still trying to go over there and wants to see it. See the other side of the camp, where all the massacre happened and everything. And so they're sneaking out over there while everybody else is swimming. And we see this figure of a man following, I don't even know their names. Dumb and Dumber is what we'll call them. So this figure of a man following Dumb and Dumber over to the old camp, Crystal Lake, like the older part where the massacre had happened previously. And they get over there and they see some sort of dead something that looks kind of like a dog. Looks kind of like Muffin.
Looks like it, but you're like, oh, what is this? This looks awful.
Yeah, I thought that was Muffin, so I wrote Muffin dead.
I just wrote dog.
This is a disemboweled dog. So I counted that as the third death. I'm like, yeah, the dog didn't do nothing. It's an innocent character, so I'm going to count that. I think I counted the snake last time, so.
I think you did too, actually.
I don't remember.
But animals have rights too.
They do. But so then we see, the man's legs kind of going over towards him, and it's actually shows that it's a cop. So the cop finds him and takes him over there and everything, and
he takes him back.
Yeah, because he's all mad that they had went over to that camp because it's like no trespassing sign and everything,
barbed wire and everything.
Yeah. And so he takes him over and he's like trying to get Paul to punish them, and he's like, no seconds on desserts. I'm just like, oh my god.
It's like you don't take it seriously. Okay.
Yeah. And
so the cop, he's driving away, and he sees someone like dart in front of his car.
Yeah.
And it looks like a man. He's like, what the hell is this? And so he stops, gets out of his car, and he starts following it.
Mm-hmm.
Following this masked man, as he call it, it's claimed.
Yeah.
Because you just want like someone trespassing running around the forest, crazy.
Yeah.
He follows him and everything, and he loses him. But then he finds this rundown old shack.
Yep.
It doesn't look like there's anything in there. But then you start looking around, and you see that there's like a lantern there. There's like a pot there. So someone's been living there.
Yeah.
And you see that the cop he sees something and he freaks out.
Yeah.
But he don't see it. And because from behind he gets
hammer to the back of the head.
Yeah.
And it's like the pointy end of the hammer, not the flat end. So it's like straight through the skull into the brain. And that is, if we count the dead dog, number 4 for the movie. 4th death. If we don't count the dog, then it's the 3rd. Because we don't necessarily know when the dog died. Because there's a possibility it's not Muffin.
So it can be considered a dog too. Just any dog.
Yeah. So then we see all the counselors. They're like having dinner and stuff. And it's getting close to after dinner. And Paul is going to take some of the kids to the bar. And I'm like, how old are they? I thought they were teenagers. But then I'm also like, well, this is the 80s and nobody really checked IDs at that point, so.
No.
But, so Dumb and Dumber, because they got in trouble, they have to stay. And then one kid is in a wheelchair, so he's like, I don't really want to go. But he's just like, I don't really know. I don't know what his problem is, but he doesn't want to go. And then the girl that seems to be interested in him stays. And then Slutty Girl stays. And then, of course, the boy that wants to get with Slutty Girl stays.
I like how you call her Slutty Girl, because I thought the same thing.
There's always one. There's always one. So.
There's got to be one slutty one.
But Slutty goes for a walk. And, of course,
and I'm like,
dude
this
follows.
is like one of the rules of a friggin' slasher movie. One, you don't go out by yourself.
Yeah.
Also, not at night. Also, at a place that is known to have a bunch of murders happen there.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yep. So we follow Slutty Girl for a little bit, and she's walking around. She's like going down to the lake, and she hears some noises, and she thinks it's Muffin. But she just is like, she calls out Muffin a couple times, and then she gives up, and then goes to the lake and goes skinny dipping.
Aw, skinny dipping.
And then the others are all in the cabin, hanging out, playing some arm wrestling. I was like, what is this game called? playing some arm wrestling, but Dumb and Dumber decide that it's sexy time. So they go do that. While the boy that's in a wheelchair and the girl that's interested in him play a little handheld hockey for their own sexy time. Like, that's how they get started in their sexy time. I'm like, okay, that's one way to get started.
Yeah.
And so then we jump back to Slutty Girl, and her clothes have been stolen off the beach, of course, because, you know, that's always going to happen. And the boy that's interested in her stole them, and he's, like, throwing them back at her as she's chasing him, yelling at him. And then, so they're heading back to the cabin area, but he, like, steps in this little rope, and it, like, pulls him up and hangs him upside down, and she's, like, making fun of him and stuff, and she's like, well, I'll only cut you down if you just promise not ever to do that again. And he's like, okay, fine. So she runs off to go get something to cut the rope, but in comes Jason, and goodbye, boy.
You get your throat slit.
Yep, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if we include the dog.
Yeah.
So then the girl comes back, Slutty Girl comes back, and she finds him, and of course she runs off screaming. And that's
the end of her, really.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we really don't see anything else from her, except for her body later, so.
It's like, she's dead, bye.
Yep, so. We don't see how she dies, but, she is number 6, but we see her body at the end of the movie. So.
People are at the bar.
Yep, at the bar, and Jenny, yeah. She's talking about how she feels bad for Jason, and I'm just like, what?
She's studying child psychology.
Yeah, but I still don't understand. I'm like, no. He's a dead thing that came back and is now killing people. There's no sorry feelings in there anywhere. So.
I was like, you know, I think she brought up the point where it's like, if he was just, he's been alive, why didn't you just tell his mom that, hey, I'm alive?
Yeah.
That would have solved so many things.
Yeah. None of this ever would have happened.
But none of this would have ever happened. So, I mean.
The kid in the wheelchair is telling the girl about how he ended up in the wheelchair. And he was in a motorcycle accident. And then, of course, her first question after, do your legs work, is, does everything else work?
I'm like, well, that's a good question to ask if you want to get some, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so they start going at it. Well, kind of. She, like, decides she needs to go get some things first. And, of course, a storm is coming. Because, you know, can't really have a slasher without storms. So it seems to be a staple in these movies. Specifically for Friday the 13th, it's like a staple. Like, yes. Almost every single one of them, there is a storm.
I was like, Friday the 13th, yes.
I just called her Purple Girl because she was wearing a purple shirt at one point. She runs off and goes and changes and stuff. And we get the point of view shot. Somebody is watching her. Shutter is, the shutter on the outside of the window is flapping against the, side of the thing. And she goes and runs and gets something from her car, which is, like, I guess her hairbrush, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
Couldn't really tell.
It was a brush.
Okay. And then the rain is starting. And then the boy, he rolls his wheelchair out onto the porch, and he's, like, looking for her, because he is like, well, she should be back now. And he, like, had heard noises outside, so he thought she was back. So he goes out there, and he gets a machete through the face.
And then he gets his wheelchair, like, just pushed down.
Yeah.
Down the set of stairs.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's convenient.
Yeah.
That those are there.
Rolls pretty far down. And then Dumb and Dumber are done with their fun
I
time.
literally wrote down, finish the nasty.
And Jason is in the cabin somewhere. And we see him grab a spear. The spear that the guy who had jumped out of the woods earlier had. And he spears through both of them.
That's one of my favorites, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like the I like the machete through the face. It's like it's pretty brutal.
That is. I mean, I like the ice pick, and I like the spear.
Okay.
Those are the ones I liked.
Machete through the face and spear were my favorites in this one.
I like spear. Because I got two at once.
Yeah.
Which was impressive. I mean, because they're still on top of each other, so I mean, it was easy.
It's kind of reminiscent of the Kevin Bacon one in the last movie with the arrow through
I
the
was just telling my brother about that, actually. I was like, yeah, you know Kevin Bacon was in Friday the 13th? He's like, no. I'm like, yeah, except he got an arrow through the throat.
Yeah.
He didn't last long, but it was a pretty cool fact.
So now we're up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you include Slutty Girl and the dog. Because technically we haven't seen Slutty Girl's body yet. But, you know, she's dead. And then the dog. So some of the people are coming back from the bar. Just, I think Ginny and Paul are coming back from the bar. Paul and Ginny coming back first. And then we see a purple girl.
Okay. That's right.
Now she comes back to the cabin and she's like looking for what's his name that was in the wheelchair. And so she's like looking around the cabin and she hears something and she goes upstairs and she pulls back the covers and finds Jason in the bed, and then she turns around and sees I don't remember which one, the boy of Dumb and Dumber kind of hung up on the coat rack. And she just stands there and doesn't do anything and then gets stabbed.
It's like he slices her in the leg, then he gets her in the stomach.
Yeah, but really she could have run. Like, you have that much adrenaline pumping through you, she could have run.
Flight or fright?
Yeah.
She just froze.
Yeah. So then Paul and Ginny get back and they're checking the house because, like, all the lights are on and everything, and they find Jason in there, and he kind of attacks, but Paul starts, like, fighting him off. And it seems like, at first, that Jason got him, like, killed him, but we don't really see. But for a few minutes, we don't see Paul, so we think, you know, Jason got him. Because Ginny's, like, running all over the place and going crazy. And Jason's, like, popping up through windows and everything. And there's one point where Ginny's hiding under a bed, but she sees a rat, so she pees herself.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that kind of giggled at that.
It's like, oh my god. And then she does a smart thing. She tries the car. And
Typical.
when that car doesn't start, she goes to the other car. Which I'm like, that's pretty smart. So, I don't know, that's not necessarily all the right order that everything happens, but
It's like, because she also finds Crazy Ralph in the,
in a cabin, or in one of the closets in a cabin.
yeah. Like he was in the first movie.
Yeah. But this time he's dead.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, after she, like, tries the cars, she then hides under the bed and pees herself, and I guess Jason saw it, like, saw the pee on the floor, and she thinks that he left, but he really was standing up on a chair, and so she, like, climbs out from under the bed, and he, like, tries to use the pitchfork to get her, but he missed because the chair broke.
I love how she pulls a chainsaw out. That was great.
Yeah, I'm like, a chainsaw?
She's not playing any games there. She's pulling out the big guns. Because she used a chainsaw earlier in the movie.
Yeah, because she was using it to cut some wood up and stuff. But so she takes off running, and she ends up finding the cabin that the cop found earlier. In the cabin, we see a death shrine to Mama Voorhees.
Yeah, it's her head and her sweater.
Yeah, and then that's where we see Slutty Girl. That's where she's officially dead. And so Ginny's bright idea is, oh, he loves his mother, let me put on her nasty old sweater.
And stand in front of her severed head and pretend to be her.
Yeah, so he's, like, talking to Jason as he comes in, and is, like, trying to trick him. And he is kind of falling for it until she, like, lifts up this machete and he sees her head, and then he goes crazy and, like, blocks it. But then we find out Paul is not dead, and he comes in and attacks Jason. And then that gives Jenny a chance to, like, machete Jason.
Through his shoulder.
And it's like, it's a pretty deep wound, though.
It is.
And so they run.
Well, they take off his mask first.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because we get to see
he has a pillowcase technically on his face. We don't get the infamous, mask yet in this movie.
Yeah, the hockey mask comes in the next one, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so we get to see... I think it's a really well done makeup, at least for the 80s.
I would agree.
But so yeah, they uncover his face and everything, and then they leave, and Paul takes her to one of the cabins to, like, I guess stitch up her leg, because he had gotten her leg with the machete or the chainsaw or the pitchfork or whatever weapon he happened to be using. And they hear noises outside, and so one of them has a shovel and the other one has a pitchfork, and one of them opens the door, and in comes Muffin.
Yeah.
Like, what? Then Jason breaks through the window and gets Jenny.
He pulls her out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this part, I was waiting. I was like, this is some too quiet shit. No. This reminds me too much of the first one. He's going to jump through something.
Yeah.
And I was right.
And then we see the next day the ambulance, like, taking her away and everything. And she's, like, calling for Paul and stuff. And I don't think I've actually seen the third one. Because I don't remember. Like, if I've seen it, it's been a long, long time, so I don't remember it all. But I don't think I've seen it. Because this is another one where I've seen a few of them, but I haven't seen all of them. But so she's, like, calling for Paul and stuff, and then it, like, jumps back, and we see the death shrine again, and see Mama Voorhees' face. But, so then, like, the thing I'm curious about, I don't remember, and I'm guessing that the third one will probably answer this question, is if the end is really what happens, or is it she somehow managed to trick Jason and then machete him on her own, and then all of the rest of that is, like, he really did kill Paul and stuff like that, because she's, like, calling for Paul and we never see him again after she's, like, taken away in the ambulance. So I feel like that'll be answered in the next one. So
he's like, I have no idea. This is, like, my first time for all of this.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was just like, I really don't know, because I don't remember the next one.
I was like, well, for the first one all the way through, I'd seen parts of it.
Yeah. But, like, it's just one of those things where it kind of seems like the end is, like, the last couple minutes when she's fighting, like, when Jason, like, when Paul comes and her and Paul supposedly injure Jason really bad. So my thing is, I think there's a possibility that she injured Jason on her own, or, like, maybe even killed Jason. Killed is in quotes, because the amount of times that he comes back is insane. So I think maybe there's a possibility she killed him and got away, and that whole last little bit is just like a hallucination or a dream or something, because, she gets taken away and nobody else really gets taken away. We don't see anybody else. We only see her.
Yeah, I've thought of that too.
That's why I think Muffin is really dead. I just didn't know what you thought.
I was thinking along that line too, actually. I was.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
I was like, because this seems kind of weird.
Yeah. But that's the end of that one. Is we see the death shrine again. So the music for this one is by Henry Manfredini, and he is the same one who did the first Friday the 13th movie. So
yes,
he just continues using the same style of music that he already, like, the same themes and everything. Like the Kill Ma, like we had talked about last time. Yeah.
Love it.
He uses that again.
I mean, it's a famous theme.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like like we talked about last time, he does such a good job with his music in this movie. So. But yeah, that's all for the music. Because, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. So, comparison. We kind of talked about it a little bit. Like, there's some remnants of the first one and this one. Like, we get a lot of the point of view shots and everything. We get some kills like the spear that's reminiscent of the Kevin Bacon death. So there's a few things that they take from the first one that they did really well and just brought it over. And then the continuing with not much of a plot. But yeah. So I don't have any other trivia for this one that doesn't, like, really pertain to the first one. Like, I had talked about all the trivia that I had Jason-wise in the first one, so.
I was like, there's ones about, like, this film.
Okay.
Like, how the actress that played Alice, this is, like, her last screen time she's ever done.
Oh.
Because she had a stalker.
Oh,
and she was just like, I'm done. With acting. So she's just stopped acting, but she's done voice work.
Oh, okay.
But she hasn't been on screen.
Oh, okay.
I was like, well, that's one way to stop acting, I guess.
Yeah.
On screen. So this one was interesting. So the guy that's credited for playing Jason in this movie, he only plays him really in one part. Because the stuntman did more of everything than he did. And so, like, it's just a conflict at that point.
Okay.
Because there's two people, three, actually. Because when you first see the footsteps in the beginning of the movie that are Jason's, there's actually a woman.
Oh. Yeah, because they're trying to play on Mrs. Voorhees at that point. Make you think maybe she's not dead. Even though she got her head cut off.
I was like, she's pretty dead. I mean, her head's chopped off.
I mean, there's a few times when Jason dies when he's pretty dead and he still manages to come back.
I was like, I'm just going off the first two. So I'm just like, but I don't know. When I get to the other ones, I'll be like, okay. Alice, the person who played Alice in this one, she actually did get hurt by the ice pick.
Oh, no.
She did. It didn't retract the first time. And so she got, like, it hit. It hurt her. I was like, oh, that sucks. I'm sorry.
Whoops.
I was like, she did get hurt with that. Like,
yeah.
And she did make up all of her own lines because she never got a script.
Well, I mean, when most of your thing is flashbacks and you just have to talk on the phone for 2 seconds.
Yep, she improvised pretty much all of it.
Okay.
I think that's about it. Oh, it came out the same year as Halloween, too.
Yeah. I did know that one.
It's like, yeah. Same year. Lucky. I swear I had one.
I guess I can tell about, like, the difference in the death toll in this one.
Go.
So, in the first movie, Mrs. Voorhees had 8. Because I don't think in my tally I counted the snake. I think we talked about the snake dying, but I don't think that I put it in my tally because Mrs. Voorhees didn't do it. But, so, there was 8 deaths in the first one. And then in this one, with the dead dog, there's 10. But if we are counting, we'll have to come back and, like, re-edit it. Or not re-edit, but, like, say once we watch the third one. Because I don't think I've seen the third one. So, if our theory is correct that the end is like a hallucination and Paul really is dead, then there's 11 deaths in this one. But there's 10 that we see like actual kills or dead bodies for.
Yeah.
So 2 more deaths in this one. One being a dog, but still.
The dogs count.
They
Animals
do.
have rights.
Yes.
They have feelings too.
Including the snakes.
It's like you tell my cat no.
But yeah, I think that's all the trivia that I have, because, I mean, pretty much everything, like I said last time, so. So, favorite line?
Oh, where was it?
I have 2.
You say yours first, because I'm trying to
Okay.
see if I remember.
Crazy Joe, as I like to call him. I told the others, they didn't believe me. You're all doomed. You're doomed. When he's like ranting.
I like that one.
And then when Ginny is pretending to be Mrs. Voorhees, Jason, Mother is talking to you.
Okay, those are good ones. One of those is mine, the Crazy Ralph one.
Okay.
And the other one is, so when Paul's trying to give everybody a speech and everything, gets distracted. He's like, so what was I talking about? And the other kid's like, you're about to give your let's keep our shit together speech.
Oh.
That one made me laugh.
Yeah. I think my favorite, though, is the Jason, Mother is talking to you.
I do like that one, actually.
I just like the delivery of that, especially because it's like a mix between the 2 people.
Yes.
So I thought that was a really cool scene.
And I was like, because she technically did come back for just that part.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah. So we going with that one, or did you want to do the Crazy Joe one?
I like the Ginny one.
Okay. So what is your rating?
This is a 5.
Okay.
It's because I like the first one better. There's not much of a story, but that's a slasher film. I mean,
yeah.
It's not as bloody as the last one. That kind of disappointed me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's not as. I mean, I
It's
like
got
some of
more
the
deaths in
practical
it, but
effects. I did like some of the deaths, but I like the deaths in the first one better. I'll say that. And it's kind of hokey. I'll say that. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad I watched it because I'm like, okay, I got that one down. Now I need to watch the rest, so I can say I've seen all of them.
Yeah.
That's why I can claim a nightmare. Because some of those nightmare movies are bad.
Yeah.
Especially the second one. That's a bad one.
Yeah.
So that's me. That's a 5.
Okay. So last time I gave the first one a 7 because, like I had said, Friday the 13th aren't my favorite, but I do enjoy them. They are slashers. And then I also agree with you. This one's just a little bit lower for me. Like, I still like it. It's still got that same kind of feel as the first one, but it's a little bit lower for me, so I did give it a 6. So just a little bit lower.
Just
but
a
still,
little.
Still do enjoy watching slasher films, just being able to turn my brain off. And I like to, every Friday the 13th, turn on one of these movies and just kind of watch them. So, yeah, this one's a 6 for me. So, next time, we are doing Friday the 13th Part 2, which came out in 1982.
You mean Part 3?
Yeah, Part 3, sorry, which came out in 1982.
It's like back to back to back.
Yeah. 1980, 1981, 1982. Which, that one will be in November.
Yeah.
Our next Friday the 13th is in November. So, got some time between now and then.
Which helps.
Yeah. So we do have our next event coming up, and it's going to be our Disney event. It will come out at the end of April. The 2 movies that I picked are Lilo and Stitch from 2002 and Oliver and Company from 1988.
And I picked Mulan from 1998 and The Hunchback of Notre Dame from 1996.
Yep, so make sure you check those out at the end of April. We are offering premium and Patreon. The links to those are in the show notes, so make sure you check that out if you are interested. our special monthly episode for March for premium and Patreon members is out today along with this episode. It is our Razzies predictions, and the ceremony for that is tomorrow, so make sure you check that out. If you can't support us that way, you can always leave us ratings and reviews. Those help us out just as much. Let us know how we're doing and help us get more listeners. And you can talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or you can email us. All the links are in the show notes. And our music is by Audio Binger, and you can find him on Facebook, YouTube, and his website, audiobinger.net. So until tomorrow with our regular episode, which is Tokyo Story, we will talk to you later. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.